Hello, everyone, and now welcome once again to what will be the last episode of Verdicts of the Ancient King. And I realized I misspelled verdicts in the title. VRD. All right, well, that's gonna annoy some people. So let me fix that right now, um, right in the middle of the cast. So there you go. Verdicts of the Ancient Kings, episode 17. Investing in gold. I am sure everyone's backlog of gold is pretty much depleted after, well, if anyone tried to upgrade all of their mercenaries, I'm sure they ran out in short supply. Maybe Colin still has a stash
A
pile of gold
million.
somewhere, but yeah, I don't know. Anyways, alongside me is gonna be Nico. Nico, how are you doing in on this wonderful evening?
Good. It's between Hex and Life. It's a busy December.
Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of people were. Well, let's just go ahead and we'll jump straight to just some talk about Adventure Zone 2 first and foremost. I think a lot of people were pleasantly surprised with how much content there was and the number of changes, the graphical interface changes, and the sheer scope and breadth of Adventure Zone 2. What was your take and what was your initial thoughts on all of this?
Well, Adventure Zone 2 was pretty good breath of fresh air. I'm having trouble talking. It's just a lot of different content, a lot of unique experiences, a lot of challenging encounters. So I've been enjoying myself. I've played through the whole Adventure Zone now four whole times.
Mm-hmm.
So I put a lot of time into it. It's a good chunk of content,
Mm-hmm.
and the mercenaries make it super replayable.
Yeah, I think in terms of replayability, it's definitely much higher up there. Playing it with the mercenaries, playing with the boat, trying to customize different decks in different situations. But after playing through it, I think I'm on my third time playing through Adventure Zone 2. I really felt like the overall story, it didn't seem as much story driven as Adventure Zone 1 was. Did you get that impression as well, or what was your take on Adventure Zone 2 as a story as a whole, or did it just seem like miniature chapters of a different book as you were just walking around?
That's kind of a good question. I actually enjoyed the story. I tried to go very slow my first playthrough,
Mm-hmm.
and I thought the storyline was interesting. Also, at the very end, like they're hinting at Zakir, the Zakir dragon, like being part of the next chapter. Like the ruby gem is what you take from the eye, and that there's other ruby dragons. So
Mm-hmm.
that's hinted at for chapter three. I don't know. I think I paid a lot more attention to the Ardent storyline
Mm-hmm.
than I did because that was my first playthrough, and then some of the Shinhair stuff I kind of blazed through.
Yeah, for me, my initial thoughts was like the story didn't seem to be driving it as much. I thought I was exploring across multiple places. The Knolls tying the first dungeon to the graveyard when you finally got there, that was a nice touch, but it didn't seem like there was like some like Richter in chapter 1 was a much bigger story driven element where you know there's something happening in the shadows and you're trying to figure it out and you're constantly unfolding that. I didn't get that impression in chapter 2, but I did like just the sheer scope, the sheer size, and it made the world seem bigger as opposed to just, I guess, reading through one novel. They have multiple places that they can take the next chapter. Obviously, with Zakir, I think he's originally a wild dragon that turned ruby because, well, he likes the horde and he, I guess, dragons can change colors over time.
Yeah, I got that impression as well that he was hoarding and gold, and that's how he eventually got the ruby shard.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, yeah, there were some parts of the story like the Knolls and the junkyard and the Knolls at the beginning that were kind of interesting. I guess I didn't understand the very last dungeon, Ruins of Kukatan, as much as the rest, and why that was the very last dungeon. Progressively, it didn't seem as challenging as some of the other content.
Well, I think Ruins of Kukulkan was one of those dungeons where if you wanted to just like blaze straight up through the middle, you could. But if you tried to get like every which bonus on the left, like the full left and the full right, you could run into some of those hiccups, even though they weren't altogether that difficult.
Yeah, and maybe it's also because by the time you're at that point in the game, you either have a very high level AZ1 campaign character, or you have a very well tuned mercenary deck.
Hmm.
So it's the content at that point is a little easier to just navigate.
Yeah, I felt that way too. I did like, without giving too much away, I did like the I guess the puzzle that they put in where I actually have like, oh my gosh, I need to take out a piece of paper and start writing things down in order to not actually lose or try to complete my dungeon playthrough. Right, like the first time you see that, you're
Yeah.
like, wait, what's going on here? Am I really? And then you're like, you feel like you're Indiana Jones, like in like touching all of these symbols inside some room and hoping that some trap and some giant boulder doesn't crush you, type of thing.
I was purposely trying to fail to see what would happen too. There's encounters that you trigger if you fail those
Hmm.
particular missions.
Yeah, but at the same time, when you fail, you lose your like perfect dungeon run. Like, I don't want to lose the perfect dungeon run. I like that additional gold bonus because
True.
mercenaries cost 25,000 gold to unlock. How many mercenaries have you unlocked?
I have the ability to upgrade, I think about eight now, and I've only upgraded three. So wait, no, four.
Hmm.
I'm trying to think through the ones that I've actually upgraded. Oh gosh, my mind is blanking. But one of the very first guys I upgraded is Gax. I still haven't actually played his upgraded version in a dungeon yet, so I got to
Hmm.
get around to that. And then the second one I upgraded was, oh man, it'll come to me later. But
Did
it's a
you
good one.
upgrade the Dingler King? Is my question, or what people want to know? I'm assuming.
Oh, the Dingler King. No, not yet, but I will, because I do want to achieve the Dingler King's ultimate Dingler transformation on an opposing champion.
Yeah, you gotta do it. Like, I'm hoping that there's like some Easter egg if you do it on each dungeon boss, and you're able to win with the Dingler King on each dungeon boss. Something strange happens. I think, like, I know that there's more Easter eggs in the game still, but. A lot of people, or we just as players, haven't found them out yet. And hopefully, as the winter break and the holiday season are upon us, people will be able to play a little bit more of those games. Anything else you want to take away, or any thoughts or impressions that AZ2 gave you in particular?
I just, I guess I would just say that I think the mercenary system was really well done. I think they made the right calls on how to implement that. And the campaign characters feel nice, but I think because the mercenaries are so new, despite the second tier of talents for the campaign characters, I think mercenaries are still being preferred by the majority of the PvE player base.
Hmm.
I also think they did pretty good with the puzzle encounters. Some of the secrets that I have unlocked, it felt rewarding to see those encounters unlock. And I'm sure, like you said, there's probably a lot of other Easter eggs and encounters that people have not stumbled on yet that are waiting to be discovered.
Yeah, I'm hoping that there's more and more, and I wouldn't put it past Hex End to like slip in a secret and not really tell us, and be like, hey, there's extra additional AZ2 content that you guys didn't know about. Maybe 2 months down the line. Hopefully they'll be able to give us small little bits in between AZ or Adventure Zone chapters, as it did take a little bit longer than a lot of us were expecting for Chapter 2. All right, so let's move right along and go back to last week's puzzle. And last week's puzzle may have stumped many of our viewers, as I believe we only got two entries. Is that right?
Yep, that's right. I think it could have been a combination of things. I mean, our last episode was the night before the ACT launch, so that might have like just kind of diverted interest as well in completing it. I
Mm-hmm.
also tried to purposely make it hard to figure out. I tried to fake people out with the thresholds and then also the amount of resources you had in play, because I guess we can just jump right to the solution. So what Crowd is showing here is that this is a puzzle from last week. You had 5 out of 5 resources. Your champion didn't matter. You had no cards in your crypt. You had no cards in your deck, or you had 1 card in your crypt and no cards in your deck, and 2 cards in your hand. So the solution was you needed to draw a sapphire shard, and you would have had a what is the name of that guy? One second.
The arcane sprite gang or the cinder clone
Yeah, yeah,
offensive.
the arcane sprite gang. So you have an arcane sprite gang in your hand, and the equipment for it, which is a trinket equipment. And then you also have a sapphire shard. So you play the sapphire shard in the arcane sprite gang, and you target this cinder clone offensive that's in your crypt. And then because you have the trinket equipment for the arcane sprite gang, and you have the we'll say you have the chest equipment as well for the cinder clone offensive, you can continually make your arcane sprite gang a copy, and then when that copy deploys, then it'll trigger the cinder clone offensive that would then be in the crypt every single time, and then you can just keep targeting 2 until you have enough of them to deal 500 damage. So it might take you a little bit of time to do the combo, but it's enough to actually do that amount of damage with the 2 cards in your hand and 1 card in the crypt.
All right, so this was really one of those going infinites, just trying to confuse people with what did you say? You had 1 diamond and 1 wild threshold.
Yeah, so part of the reason why this also works is because Arcane Sprite Gang's trinket equipment makes the card free to play. Any card that's made free to play does not have any threshold requirement. So even though that Cinder Clone Offensive says it's 2 ruby threshold, because this Sprite Gang's making it free to play, that threshold doesn't matter.
All right, that's both clever and mean all at the same time. We'll see if you get we'll see if you get a little bit of a hate on this particular puzzle. But we do have another puzzle for all of you guys over the Christmas or holiday break as we go into 2017, and we'll get to that a little bit later. We do have 2 winners, and since this is the last puzzle of the year, I'm not sure what we will be sending you, but we'll at least we'll send you Convocation 2016 code and potentially something else. I just need to figure out what that something else is. Who are the 2 winners?
Audens and Thand. So 2 of our regulars, they both were able to get this. So good job, you guys. You both win.
All right, so I guess it's starting to pay to be a regular puzzle answerer, as the prizes have been coming in from Hexent, and they have been fairly decent. I think I still have about a couple more mercenaries, but I may have given them already. We'll see what I can dig up. I think I have a couple sleeves as well, and well, some other goodies that we'll talk about a little bit later. Coming up this weekend, though, is going to be the first Platinum Plunder. It is going to be a Platinum tournament that is basically on par with the Cosmic Crown Showdown. This is a free-to-play tournament. And is it the top 256 players now get the Salty Sam Swashbuckler Mercenary? Is that true?
Yeah, it's top 256. So there's a very good chance that the turnout for this, that will somehow equal about half of the player base. Mm-hmm. So hopefully everyone shows up for this event. I mean, even if you are not the best constructed player, if there's a 50% chance for you to get this mercenary, you definitely should take it. So if you're around on Saturday and you happen to have the time to play, definitely try to get into this tournament, even if you don't have a viable constructed deck.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun, and it's one of those events where it's a really, really grand event. There's going to be a lot of really strong players out there, but it's almost like a local event since it's free, and it's just going to be fun to just be able to sit down, play some constructed with nothing really on the line, and see if I don't know, if your crazy combo deck can take a game from a tier 1 deck, or even take a match from a tier 1 deck, and do things like that. The Salty Sam Swashbuckler has an interesting shard grid. I know we talked about this in the past, and it looks like it could do some very, very interesting things, since if you can have a lot of charge generation, you can do a lot of just bouncing back and forth, and doing a lot of damage that way.
Yeah, it's also after playing Adventure Zone 2, if you look at the deck building requirement, it's also very thematically similar to all the boat quests that you do, like the 4 copies of Hard Shell, 4 copies of Humans, or 4 copies of Minotaur in your deck.
Hmm.
That's pretty neat. I guess they could have done 4 copies of Elementals too, since all those storm clouds are in the water. But I think that he'll be pretty fun to play, and the upgrade text for him seems really good as well, which is like, I think it's a 6 cost, but it's draw a card for each card in opposing hand. So if you're continually bouncing things into their hand, you could draw quite a few cards.
Yeah, definitely, definitely very good there. Also, don't forget, one of the most sought after prizes will be the Salty Sam sleeve. That is a one of only. You cannot buy it, you cannot trade it. The lucky or unlucky ninth place player in day 1 will be blessed or cursed with that Salty Sam sleeve.
That'll be me. I'm going to go for it.
You're going to try to statistically put yourself in position.
I will attempt to statistically figure out a way to become ninth place.
All right, so just a quick question to you: what do you think we're going to be looking at in terms of this upcoming tournament? What do you think are going to be the popular decks? Can we look at the ladder meta to determine anything that we're going to be looking at these couple of weeks?
So I think that the on the high end, we're going to see some Kagalichu. We're going to see a lot of the Blood Wild variant, but also we're going to see a lot of the Mono Blood, and Mono Ruby is going to be probably the highest percentage because it's the lowest entry point for many people at the highest win percentage potential chance. And then the Mono Wild, of course, is going to be popular with either Grandfather Elk, or I think even more popular is Shoku. So we'll see that as well for people that have fuller collections. And then there might be a few control decks that are like Diamond Sapphire based.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of the meta right now, and every time I've been playing the ladder meta, there's been, and you got to be careful. The ladder is significantly different than a constructed tournament, where you just are trying to make top 8. A lot of players bring to the ladder just faster decks that are easier to play through because they're just trying to grind, and then they'll bring a deck that they know is more difficult to play but has a higher win percentage. But since they're more focused and there's more on the line, they don't mind that a little bit of extra work to play something rather than playing straight burn or playing Yule Tool or something of that nature.
Yeah, true. And I think that there might be some strategy around what to bring in terms of how you might be able to fare against the highest percentage amount of players in the field. Like, for instance, if I think I'm going to be playing a lot of Mono Ruby decks or Yodel decks, which are also low entry point, I could opt to play something that has like a lot of diamond and healing and interrupts, and it might do well. But it's hard to make those judgment calls where there's other people trying to go a route that might do well against certain decks but not do well against others. So like you said, they might be playing just a strong, well-rounded deck that might take more time to play, but might get them into the top 8.
Yeah, I think things that you really need to be consider is, if your main deck doesn't have any way to gain life, you need to have something in your reserve that at least can gain you 4 to 8 life. That is definitely going to be helpful around those specific burns. Also, you have to be on the lookout for the blood decks where someone may sideboard or have a reserve of closed coffins, some card that really shuts down the vast majority of decks out there. Also, cards such as the Drowned Shrine, which prevents you from drawing additional cards as well. You want to be able to make sure you have ways to get around that. So reserves and shore up your deck, but the meta will generally need a way to heal, a way to deal with artifacts, and a way to deal with constants. Those would not be a big surprise. Also, I think Gemborn Prowler is going to be one of those cards that if you are running blood, it makes a lot of sense to go ahead and have that in your reserve and your main as well because of the Runir Heiferfons, and maybe even we might see a Dark Heart of Nozun, something of that nature.
Or the Arden Crusader or the Underworld Crusader.
Yeah, there seems to be some really strong socketed cards that have really made just a strong stay in the meta right now, and I think that the Gemborn Prowler is pretty much a 2-cost removal that can void a unit. It gets around a lot of other things as well. Gets them into the void. You can't scrounge off of them, and it does really throw a lot of players off when it happens that very first time, and they're not expecting it.
Yeah, I've gotten blown out by that card before as well. It is very strong, and it can even do well against decks that are not mainstream, that someone's bound to run a socketable card.
Hmm. And most of the time, players are looking out for some sort of three removal. Hero Fall being the biggest offender right now. If you throw a Casualty of War in play because of a Crocosaur, that might also be some nice tech. But we're getting into the realm of theorizing, trying to solve problems that may not even happen yet.
Yeah, true.
All right, so moving right along, well, let's go ahead and jump into the puzzle for the new year. This puzzle was brought to us by one of the clan members, Ul, again. Once more, he says that, this is a little bit of. I guess a little bit of story. If you guys don't recognize these particular encounters in Adventure Zone 2 yet, wait until you get there and you may end up pulling your hair out once or twice. These are some of the most difficult encounters in Adventure Zone 2. And Nico, why don't you take it away?
Okay, so there's a lot going on with this puzzle. If you have completed Adventure Zone 2, once you beat the final Ruins of Kukaton dungeon, there are some bonus encounters that are super challenging that are up in like the northeast of the map. And one of them is this Mad Eridam. And Mad Eridam is kind of like the equivalent, well, and you can see Samus up at the top right with the troll face as well. Those are like two of the hardest encounters in AZ2, maybe similar to Armies of Myth 6 from AZ1. So basically, this is all about Matt Eridam and his ability there that says repulsion aura. When an opposing champion plays a non-resource card, there's a 50% chance to put that card into its controller's hand. That card gets cost -1. Maybe I shouldn't have to spell that out to you, but it is part of the puzzle. You can see that it says, just assume that every second spell is affected by this ability. The player has a life total of 20, but your deck is empty. Eridam still has 70 cards in his deck, 25 of which are Tarantula eggs. The shuffler manages a relatively even distribution. We checked. How can you win this game? And you might need equipment for this one. So it shows you what's in your hand. It shows you what's on the board. And I think this puzzle actually is not super challenging. It's just a matter of kind of figuring out the trick. And then once you figure out that trick, will it consistently happen for you to be able to win? So send us the entries. Hopefully this is easy enough for the end of the year. And we'll have some nice prizes for you when we come back in 2017.
Yeah, definitely the case. I don't know. It feels like this is a rather short show just because there isn't a lot to spoil. We've actually finally gotten the past the hump of Adventure Zone 2 or Chronicles of Enchath Chapter 2. Is there anything that you want to talk about or anything that interests you? Maybe the draft gauntlet.
So I actually haven't gotten around to playing a async draft. I was meaning to do that tonight. I tried last night and I couldn't get anyone to join the queue with me, so that I was a little frustrated. I only waited about maybe 10 or 12 minutes before I left the queue, but I'm going to try again tonight. I really like the fact that they went async. I just hope we have the player base after everyone's kind of gone back to their usual regular routine in X.
Mm-hmm.
And that might be because of both flashback Evo gauntlets and the new patch where people are kind of doing things that they may not normally do, like farming the adventure zone and enjoying the content. One of the things I think that would be kind of fun to talk about is maybe dive more into mercenaries a little bit and just talk about some of the mercenaries we've been playing and how we're using them. If you want to stretch the episode a little bit.
All right. Well, I'll talk about a little bit of my Adventure Zone 2 and how I started off with. Um, the first character I played was an elf cleric. So I was running Diamond Wild, and as soon as I had mercenaries, I included the Angel, which I forget her name. It's
Athenia.
Athenia and Count Davian. Anything to help me get those ethereal healers out faster. And I actually just played everything as my elf cleric. So a lot of people saying that, like, yeah, like I went to the forums later, everyone was saying that they were playing with their mercenaries and the mercenaries were so much stronger. I actually had a blast playing through my elf cleric, even Mad Aram. If I was able to get my divine altar out, and I actually got both divine altars out, and because of the game text on divine altar, it says when you play a cleric, copy it. So if you have both divine altars out, you can play it. It will make two copies, put them into play, and then Mad Aram was returning clerics back into my hand.
That's pretty cool, actually.
Yeah,
I
so
didn't.
so all of a sudden I was just like, okay, like I would drop down like but the I'd play him again, and then he'd get bounced back until he was free, and then negative cost, and then they all had prophecy. So my next righteous paladin was plus 17 plus 17 because of all of the interaction on all of the board that was happening. I had life drain going, and I was generating so many blessings, and I had a 100 card deck that he never had a chance to mill me. So the first time I played Mad Aram with my standard cleric deck, I had actually beaten him, and I had ethereal healers out on the board at the very beginning as well. So it was one of those encounters where when I had visited the Hex offices, people were telling me, "Yeah, you're gonna have a really hard time with this fight. Like I still haven't beaten this fight yet." So I sat down expecting an Armies of Myth level 6 fight, and I beat it on my first try, and I was just like, huh.
That's pretty good. I definitely lost to Matt Aradem like once, or I think it was either one or two times before I figured it out and tried something different. But that's pretty nice to hear. Did you use the Holy Hands talent at all?
I I did not use the Holy Hands talent. I don't even know what the hand socket is on in that particular deck.
Adamantine Scrivener, maybe?
No, I don't have that particular cleric. I found him too weak actually to include in my deck.
Well, so I also had an experience with my Shinhare cleric, and I utilized Holy Hands in a 120 card deck. Well, a 100 card deck that was pumped up by 20 copies of stuff.
Hmm.
And the glove equipment I used was on Fertile Engorger. And
Okay.
then because I had to go up to Holy Hands, I also went through Diligent. So I had many games where every time I played a Fertile Engorger, the next card on my deck was Fertile Engorger. So I just kept drawing Fertile Engorger like probably 10 games in a row. I just drew Fertile Engorgers for like 10 turns in a row and just won. because eventually they'd create the Milky Eyes, and eventually I'd just swing in for lethal.
Hmm.
But Diligent with Holy Hands is kind of silly because all of your copies move up, and then because you've put what 16 copies of the card in your deck. If you're playing four of with the 100 card deck, you have exactly 20 copies of the particular card in your deck. You can just chain that card forever.
Well, as long as it's a card that you really, really want, I'm sure
Yeah,
Fertile Engorger was not envisioned that way. You have the 1/1 lethal as opposed to the Battle Hoppers. I'm assuming as well.
yeah.
Therefore, yeah, just making that card that much better, that much stronger. I don't know if you could tunnel a Monsoon on turn two and then have the Engorger die and then come back again and then die again. Because I don't. Um, you
I was playing Call of the Grave with Trinket, so I get all my Engorgers from the crypt back to my hand and then play them again.
And when they go to the crypt, they don't lose their counters,
Yeah,
right?
keep all the charges. So the other card I was playing as well was Hop Hero with the head equipment. So I was also pumping up my Fertile Engorgers and Milky Eyes every time I hit with Hop Hero. So there's a nice little synergy there.
Very nice. And then they're getting sacrificed. So Hop Hero's a gigantic 3/3 that can kill any troop on the board at some point and just be that strong in overall.
Yeah, it was a nice way to win on like maybe turn 4 or 5 typically. And then in terms of mercenaries, I tried a lot. I had a lot of fun with some of the Kickstarter mercenaries,
Hmm.
like the Cardboard Tube Samurai, Athenia, and then out of the non Kickstarter ones, Hawkor is pretty amazing, and Luther Rumble Blitz just completely wrecks the Junkyard Dungeon.
Okay, you're gonna have to tell me what Luther Rumble Blitz is. That the Jank bot?
So Luther Rumble Blitz was a oh gosh set 3 or set 4 chess reward mercenary, and what he does is for 3 charges, he has an ability that says give target troop flight and +1 attack, or I think it's flight and rage 1. And when it deals combat damage to opposing champion, destroy a random opposing artifact. So it was really good for the Junkyard Dungeon. He also has a shard grid that is completely open to artifact destruction, like four of any Ruby cards. So you can play Total Meltdown and Vandalize. And then he has a passive ability that says when there are 5 or more artifacts in any crypt, remove them from the crypt and then create a crank. What's it called? The crank rocket, and put it into play under your control.
All right, so then you can just use that again, exhausted, start destroying troops, and just going infinite with all of the destruction that you have. You can probably even run Himp Hoodlums if you want to steal some of the artifacts as well, and just have fun with the fact that you're sitting in a giant artifact, artifact dungeon.
Yeah, totally rocks. I was playing War Machinist as well with equipment, and even taking out troops in other dungeons and stuff that had shell because of all the little pings.
Yeah, like shell, I found to be some of the most annoying things. Okay, for me, because I was running a cleric, switching back over to the things that like, oh, that's how that worked. Shell not proccing life drain, and then
Yeah,
and then running a cleric deck on a boat and not getting any heals. Like my righteous paladins were always 2/2s, like because you can't gain life. And I'm sitting there like, oh, I really need to rebuild this deck and really need to rethink how I'm gonna build an actual seaworthy deck, so to speak, in order to deal with all of these encounters. I think that was the first time I actually had to really dive in and make some serious changes to any of the decks that I had on those boat encounters.
yeah. The bow encounters I think were maybe put into AZ2 almost specifically to make people not only play ethereal healer decks. Because I mean, ethereal healer is kind of just taken over all of the PVE experiences. But again, it's fun, and they probably don't want to nerf it. So I think it was interesting for them to find an entire piece of content that required players to not have life gain, even though that might have frustrated a few people that had to go in and change their decks significantly.
Yeah. When I did you run into any specific issues when trying to save decks and build decks?
Yeah, way too much, and I have a feeling that's what they're kind of probably working to fix because I think it's a retention issue. Like there are people that I know that came back into the game
Mm-hmm.
that basically quit because of the boat deck building,
Mm-hmm.
and then also the mercenary deck building because of the conflicts with the shard grid that you see for the boats, and then also trying to save a deck for the boat or the mercenaries that had any extended arted cards
Mm-hmm.
or even AA cards would cause errors. So that was really frustrating. I think for anybody that had experienced it because you have to constantly go back in and make changes, which is not a way to reward your players that have spent time to EA or AA cards.
Yeah, I was talking with some of the people out there, and they had addressed it on the forums already. If you guys didn't experience any of these issues, if you tried to run like multiple copies of a specific card, and say two of them were extended arted and one of them was not, it would actually kick out um, I'm the one or the other, and then not make our deck valid. So like I spent 10 minutes, 15 minutes like just trying to save a deck, like a 60 card deck, and then I'd hit save, like it passed all the checks. I hit save, and then it says your deck is invalid, and I'd be at 58 cards, and I'm like, what happened? Like, did I go blind? Did I do something wrong? So I check everything, do it again, and they are aware of it. They are trying to fix all of these issues, and they are working very, very diligently. Even though I know it is 13 days until Christmas, and people are going to be heading home. They are still working extremely hard back at the offices to try and get everything up and ready and be enjoyable for you guys. So I just want to give a shout out to everyone at Hex Entertainment. Thank you. So far, Chronicles of Entrath Chapter 2 has really blown my mind in terms of just the scope, in terms of the scale, and how great everything already looks. And I think the initial impressions, and I'm hoping that this elevates the player base even further.
Yeah, and I think they did a really good job with just the encounters all feeling different and being unique. Even in the Kraken dungeon, having permanent effects on your troops, like throughout the remaining part of the dungeon,
Mm-hmm.
is really innovative and interesting. So, hats off to you guys for being super creative, making really fun, replayable content, and doing it doing it on a large scale with a pretty good release that wasn't lag ridden or anything else. It's just, there's always going to be one little thing that doesn't go well, and it just happened to be deck building this time. But everything else was amazing, and I look forward to all the future PVE content that you guys bring because obviously I think you guys are headed in the right direction, and I think the player base would probably agree as well.
Yeah. Well, all right. Any closing thoughts or anything else you want to touch up on in Adventure Zone Chapter 2?
No, I mean, if we're wrapping up the show, though, I do want to say that for those of you guys that do play Hex and enjoy Hex, this year has been a pretty amazing year for Hex in terms of like hitting release dates, hitting certain goals that we didn't really see in years prior. So, gosh, I'm looking forward to next year to see what actually happens within the game.
Yeah, I think next year is going to be one of those years where hopefully we'll continue to see acceleration, or at least keeping pace in terms of new content. I know that they're working very, very hard on the next set already. Even though everyone is still just sinking their teeth into Adventure Zone 2. And hopefully they built enough buckets for PvE so that they can fill those buckets and we can get additional content in the form of chapter 3 or something else. I know that I know talking with some of the people at Hexent that PVE is particularly difficult because you're always creating new buckets to do something else, whether it be keeps, whether it be raids, whether it be just like multiplayer. All of those encounters, it's just going to be rebuilding a lot of very, very like rebuilding the way you play Hex in general, and how do you code that all? How do you make sure the interface is slick and everyone understands what's going on and what's happening? So, hats off to all of the design team so far, and really looking forward to what's going to be coming up in well in the next year. Is it the fourth year for Hex? I'm trying to.
Yeah, since a Kickstarter, it will be considered the fourth year.
All right, so yeah, let's hope that year number 4 is a great year for Hex. From all of us here at Cornerstone Guild, thanks for watching, thanks for listening, and we'll see you guys next year.
Yeah.